talking to me from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the capital of Canada, CARMELO ZUCCO, who is the short filmmaker of The Phoenix, the sci-fi film that played at the last WILDsound Shorts. How's it going, CARMELO?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
How is Ottawa doing?
It's pretty good. Hot and sunny.
Oh, we're in Toronto. I'm talking to you in Toronto right now. It's cold and rainy, so basically...
Yeah, it's usually the flip, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so The Phoenix sci-fi short film, very interesting story, a very unique story. I gotta admit, like, I've never seen a film quite like this. What came, like, how did you get this idea to do this film?
Initially, the whole thing started when I made one of the robot heads that appeared in the film. I was working on props and just kind of messing around with practical effects because I'm a true believer in practical effects. I really like how they look on screen. I think kind of computer-generated imagery in film is really cool as like a makeup, but I just like practical effects and prop design, so I just started working on this robot head. It was pretty aimless. I just started from scratch and I worked on it, and then as it came together, I thought I'd base a film around it, and I just always wanted to make a movie about a robot. But then through the process, I thought, what if it's a movie about a human with a robot body, and that's kind of where the whole film spawned from.
Did you ever, like, did you have somebody close to you die, like a grandfather, like in this film, pass away, and you kind of wanted him, like...
No, not at all, actually. It's just, the story just spawned from the way I see kind of where we're heading in the future, where I think the premise of the film will pretty much be a reality in maybe 40, 50 years. The way science is heading right now, they're kind of going that route where if you look at somebody... We have prosthetic limbs, and now we're kind of getting in more and more like assisted walking with bipedal vehicles and stuff like that. Really kind of already sci-fi stuff is already kind of becoming a reality. So I kind of wanted to jump into the future and just see like the possibility of, let's say, transferring someone's consciousness into an android host body.
And do you think that, like, you think that, like, in your lifetime, because basically you're saying 40, 50 years, which is probably going to be in your lifetime, that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of recent articles actually touched upon the very thing where that's what they're saying by, like, let's say even earlier, by 2045 at best, that they might be messing around with technology such as this. Not to the exact as in the Phoenix, but where you're going to start having kind of computer systems with human consciousness in it, as opposed to AI.
Gotcha. But at its heart, this is kind of really just a love story between the grandson and the grandfather, right? And like it's kind of has like forget like everything that you're just talking about, but really your film is about that kind of emotional story, correct? True.
Because I wanted to, since it's a short film, I only have so much time to really get to the heart of a matter, right? Like with a feature film, you can really explore all the avenues of what this might be, but with the short, I really want to concentrate on just one little instance between a grandfather and a grandson. And the onus is on the grandson to really accept this kind of weird new thing in his life, right? Which was what was once his grandfather's, like this really strange looking guy walking around saying, "I'm still your grandfather." So it's like a lot for a little boy to take in. And they're just going to rebuild that relationship, right? Because the relationship between grandfather and grandson is pretty special. Like father and son is the kind of like a cliche thing, but grandfather grandson, there's kind of like a different kind of bond there.
100%, but it's also too like about the physical, like where the grandson, like especially when you're young, even us as adults have it's basically we see love through the physical, especially when you're young. So it's like it's about his journey of like struggling with like not seeing the physical anymore, I guess.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Like towards the beginning of the film, you can kind of see it in his face. He's playing along, but there's some deep reservations about what this is. It even is his grandfather, right? Because, like, you're right, a grandfather, if you remember when you're a child, you kind of remember, like, the hugs you got from your grandparents or the way their perfume or their cologne was, little things like that. But now that he's just like this kind of sleek robot, you kind of lose all those attachments, and then you kind of almost have to rebuild your relationship again.
No, but it's kind of funny. I was just thinking about sight, but you're right. It's like even the scent and even the even like the feeling of like when you touch your grandfather, like that's all gone for this kid. All the senses are gone for this kid except for like the spiritual element, I guess.
That's right. Like he's old enough to understand and kind of maybe accept that human beings have a spirit and a consciousness in them, so he can grasp that. Okay, maybe. Also, actually, like youth kind of embrace technology a lot faster than, let's say, middle-aged people or older people when it becomes present in their lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Like iPads now, I see like maybe little kids who are like 3-4 years old, and they're like master these little things, right? Where I'm still kind of bumbling around on this kind of newer touch technology, where that's one thing that kind of that can help him in that sense, where he's young enough to kind of accept such kind of medical breakthroughs in technology. But on the flip side is like you can't really, like, love is love, and losing someone, like I've already alluded that he lost his parents.
Yeah.
So his grandfather is all who he had, so now he's going through his transformation. So it's just like something's always fishy about these loved ones just passing on.
You know, like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but like at the same time, like, you're talking about like the youth embracing technology, but they don't generally love their iPad or their phone, or maybe they do. Who knows, right? But it's like,
I think it goes both ways. Like,
yeah.
I'm really sure there's some teenagers out there who absolutely love their iPad and iPhone and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. Like, of course, they don't like have that parental love for like this technology.
And basically, when we do these films, I was talking to somebody about after this film, and I talked to you in the email about like how it didn't really, the moderation didn't get its fair justice. It's one of the, I have to admit, like it's like most times, like 95% of times, the films get its fair justice in the moderation. But for action films and for sci-fi films, it's difficult for a festival because they're watching like a drama, like they're a grounded film, and all of a sudden we go into your film, which is like the future, and it's like hard for people to like kind of adjust their viewing. Yeah. I guess
it happens like that. I found it pretty strange, but it's the way it goes, right? Like everyone has their opinion, and this is a first for me. Like the Phoenix is usually extremely well received. It just played at the Phoenix Film Festival, and that was. But they put it in a block with sci-fi, like
yeah, exactly, yeah.
If you're watching like kind of based into reality dramas, and then you get thrown a sci-fi. But the thing on the flip side, though, I always think like when I go watch movies, I'm always like a blank slate. I never come into like a film with any kind of predetermined notion, or even especially with festivals, right? Because these movies are coming from all over the world. I always just want to go and enjoy the story at hand. But yeah, like there are some people who like have maybe a specific idea in mind of their evening and when they're going to watch something, and then usually sci-fi comes in and it just throws a curveball at them.
It's like I think I was alluding to in the moderation. Like you're prepared, like say Star Trek. Like you go into Star Trek, you're prepared to watch a sci-fi movie. Like you and basically, and even though they have the synopsis and they know what genre they have, it's just like it's almost, you know what I mean? Like it's just like it's difficult. And in the future, I'm just gonna like have one block, say, of sci-fi films. Like, but at the same time, I have to find another good sci-fi film to program yours. So I'm in that difficult position of like, I want to program your film, but at the same time, you know what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I understand. Like, it's just, you know what? It's basically rolling the dice when it comes down to it. Like, some people, like, let's say on a separate evening, you could have a totally different reaction with the exact same films, just a different audience. And it's just the way it is, really.
Well, but I got to tell you, like, 80% of the audience liked your film a lot. It was just that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that it was for people, like, even, what was your reaction of the person saying about, like, the person didn't have a face? Like, why didn't that robot have
I got that, but it was explained. But that's one thing I wanted to touch upon.
Yeah.
Any kind of business has like the economic model of like from like economy to luxury.
Sure.
Right? And I even think like if you're a company and you're selling this service, right? Like that's the scene between the Mars character and the Atlas character in that office, where they're having that discussion of whether it's a flashback, whether he wants to do this change or not. You come into that instance of like, if you can kind of afford the service, but you are going to be, let's say, the prototype from 10 years ago. You're not going to be the newest model that does look human, if that's what you can afford. The service is invaluable because you are still transferring your soul and you're still going to be alive, right? So that's there, but you're going to be a much older model.
Yeah.
So my reasoning behind that is I just wanted to make it where his voice was the same. He was still saying, "I'm your grandpa," but he looked so strange. It was like it had to be a leap of faith for the grandson to finally start looking at him as a grandfather in his new form.
Yeah, 100%. I loved it. I thought this was I thought it was a great film. So, and I know a lot of the audience films. I know one person sitting behind me, an older lady sitting behind me, was crying during your movie. So, it was very well received.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so it's just because it's got that core emotion kind of to it, and it's all seen through the eyes of the grandson as well, right? So
that's right. I also tried to make it's science fiction because of the premise of the whole robot, but it's actually a drama. Right? Yeah. It's kind of a weird. I kind of made a bit of a weird hybrid where it's really dramatic for a sci-fi. Right? There's no laser guns being fired, and there's no explosions or ship chases, where the kind of more typical sci-fi movies might have, even in shorts. I kind of wanted to make more a philosophical sci-fi movie where we would deal with something that we might possibly deal with in the future.
100%. So what's next for you? What's next on the slate for you?
The next, I'm working on my next short, which is called The Lion. And it's about, it's not a science fiction, it's more of a drama, but most of these movies will have an element of kind of the spiritual in them where, let's say, things will happen that are typically not realistic, right? But in this film, it's kind of much more grounded in reality, where it's about a father and son who are grieving the loss of their wife and mother, and they're Icelandic, and they're in the middle of nowhere living on this farm, and so their relationship is fractured, and they don't speak to one another anymore, just based off of guilt. And now that the mother who's gone, who was once the bridge between the two, now that she's gone, it's just kind of father and son, and two strong silent types dealing with such pain. Yeah, they both kind of separate from one another, and it's just dealing with their relationship and how to cope.
Well, hopefully when you're done that, you can show it to our festival, and I'm sure we'll get some good moderation for it.
Absolutely.
All right, Carmelo, that was great, and congratulations on the film again and its success, and looking forward to your next film and your prosperous career in the future.
Great, I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.